Well, hello again.
Why, hello. How are you doing today?
I'm good, just ignoring some messages. I just looked at my phone, it looked like a lot, and then I just went,
We're not even going to look at that today.
for another day.
For another day. Now, if they ask you, why did you not respond, what are you going to do?
Well, I feel kind of put on the spot here.
Are you going to lie?
Well, you know what? I just might. Because it was my mom.
Oh, don't do that.
Just kidding, Mom.
No, sorry,
No,
Lauren's
no.
mom. Didn't mean to put you on blast.
No. I might. And that's the thing about different situations. Like, why do we have the urge to lie?
Oh, especially to our parents?
Yeah.
Well, that's a really good question, actually. I'll answer it for myself. There are times where I don't like to call it lying.
Uh-huh.
It's because it feels too shameful to admit that it's lying. But I do falsify reports.
You falsify. That sounds better than
It's
lying.
more factual. I feel
Okay,
like lying
yeah,
is a judgment.
Yeah.
Calling it lying is a
True.
judgment.
True.
I purposely choose to falsify reports with
Mm-hmm.
more so my dad than my mom.
Yeah.
Because my dad throws tantrums.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't want to deal with them. Love you, Romeo. Sorry, man.
So it's interesting. So you intentionally don't tell the truth.
Yes.
And this lying that you speak of, it sounds like a pretty good thing then.
It depends.
Okay.
It depends. The function of the behavior is to avoid having a consequence or a reaction from
Mhm.
another person. More so, I think it's the reaction. It's avoiding the reaction. No, and the function sometimes pays off. Most times, I still get the reaction.
What ends up being the consequence? What's the reaction?
Specifically, if we talk with my dad, because my dad, I love him, and he's getting older, so he just wants me at their house every day,
Mm-hmm.
every single day, and like I go every Saturday, and I go visit every Saturday, and then there are times where he'll call me, and he's like, "What are you doing, Nini?" And he calls me Nini.
Mm-hmm.
Like, "What are you doing, Nini? Do you want to come over and have coffee with me?" And I'm like, "No, I can't. Like, I'm running this," and he'll call me like the next day. "What are you doing, Nini?" And if I say no, I know he's gonna be like, "Why don't you want to come over?" And then I feel guilty.
Yes.
So to avoid that, I'm like, "You know what, Dad? I would love to come over, but I have to go to a meeting." Mind you, I'm sitting at home watching TV, so maybe I should just get up and go visit my dad. And it's only 22 minutes away from my house.
It's interesting that it feels easier if you have something else to do.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you don't have a choice. I'm stuck in a meeting. I have no choice here.
Yes. I have to work.
And because I think you also need to take a break. And so it's interesting that we feel more comfortable saying that there's something I need to do that I am doing than just being like, you know what, I'm exhausted. I really can't travel 22 minutes.
Mm-hmm. It would be nice. So then why do I do it?
The same reason I do it.
Why do you do it?
I don't want anyone to feel bad.
Yeah.
And I feel like it's an easier story if I'm busy, if I actually have something to do.
I know, but this is the thing. You know the consequences of doing it? I feel guilty every time.
Of course.
Also, I'm really bad at it.
Mm-hmm.
It's not even a judgment. Like, it's factually, I cannot remember the lie that I told.
Yes.
And then if I'm asked a question, I panic. So then I end up giving myself away because I'm like, and then, or worst case, I won't be able to sleep at night.
Yeah, it'll stick with you.
Yeah.
Now, I recently lied and it really backfired. Like, more than I'd care to admit. So let's just jump in here.
Let's throw it out there. We all do it, Lauren. We all do it. I'm sorry you got caught.
I am too. Because, so my sister and I, my older sister, we look exactly alike. We're like twins. And sometimes it's just easier to pretend to be her. So if I'm visiting her family, and her neighbor says, "Hey, Kristen," I'll say, "Hey, what's up? How are you?" And I'll just go into a full-blown conversation, because it's easier than being like, "Oh no, I'm not," and starting to like respond further. So I'm I'm at my sister's house, and her neighbors walk by. And they're like, "Hey, Kristen, how are things going?" And I'm like, "Absolutely fantastic. Just at home with the husband." And I'm going into a full-blown conversation, and they walk away. My sister's like, "What were you doing?" And I'm like, "Saying hi to your neighbors." And she's like, she just thinks I'm being normal. And like
you're
I'm
being yourself.
Me. So then my sister comes out, and we start walking to like get coffee, and her neighbors walk back. And they didn't even say anything, but I was just like, oh my God.
But see, here's the thing. Is that lying?
Yes.
Why?
Because I pretended to be my sister and answered questions as her. Yeah, that was a full-blown lie. I just couldn't deal with it. I do it all the time. I had never gotten caught before. It never usually backfires. I pretended to be her in New Canaan, like when we're at our parents' house, when people, all the time. I constantly pretend to be her.
Why?
Because if people think I'm her, I'm just like, let them think it. Because I don't want to take the time to be like, no, it's not, that's not me. I'm like, no. They will never talk to me then. So I can just kind of hide. And I have been doing it for so long, to the point where sometimes I accidentally give her phone number out. I constantly pretend to be her. There were a lot of opportunities.
I will say personally, if I was in your shoes, I don't think I would do it because I just don't. I think I would do it just because it's fun for me.
It could be. If I was actually trying to like fuck with her or something, but I'm not even. I just can't tolerate social conversations. So I'm just like, what's the fastest way out of here? Fastest way, pretend to be that person, walk away.
Did you tell your sister about it?
Oh, yeah.
What did she say?
I mean, I think I have to ask her. Remember our assumptions.
Don't make assumptions.
But she's like, why do you keep doing that? I don't know. It seems easier in the moment than being like, I'm not who you think I am.
I have to explain myself. I think also the other piece is like, I don't want you to feel bad that you didn't really recognize, you recognize the wrong person. So then that's the thing. So then here's my question. Because lying, which it's just fraud. You're just pretending to be
It's fraud. It's identity theft. So that's one form, is identity theft. Another
but it comes from a good place.
Yeah. I'm not really trying to cause harm. I'm just trying to get out. I just want to go home, you know?
So then this is the question. If it comes from a good place and with good intention, because this is the thing. A lot of times with my clients, because borderline personality disorder or a lot of mental health, people avoid telling them things.
Yes.
So they end up lying, right? And every single time I'm like, I understand that you're doing it with good intention. Yes. Your intentions are pure. It's just not, it doesn't help. It's not helping the situation. So does it make a difference when the intention is pure?
You know, that's a good question.
Should it be judged?
I want to say yes, and I don't really believe that. Sometimes it really depends on the situation and what the context is. There's this, in the DBT manual, they have this like myths about interpersonal interactions. One of them is everybody lies. And I think people do.
Yeah.
And I think that there's some things that it doesn't really matter.
No.
In the bigger scheme of things, if there's something kind of embarrassing and someone asks you, was it noticeable that my pants were ripped in group? And you say, no.
Look great.
Yeah, I'm sure nobody noticed that they ripped when you bent over and started writing on the whiteboard.
We saw your red underwear.
Yes. Yes. I get it. And honestly, I knew I was being lied to in the moment. I mean, not that it happened but I did know. And
Did it happen? I don't recall such a thing happening.
It did.
Oh.
Girl, you took me to Ross.
Oh
If
yeah!
you can.
Oh my god, I remember
Yeah.
that! But I didn't lie to you. I actually told
Yes.
you.
Well, you gave me a jacket to put around my ass.
Yeah.
This is what happens when you keep a pair of $10 pants for 5 years.
They were cute though. And then we went to the Ross shopping spree.
Yeah. So it all worked out. But there are times like that where it doesn't really matter. But then there are these bigger moments where it does.
Yeah. I will say, like this week, it's actually, I was at a couple of events and marketing the skills application group that I have, right? Yeah. And of course, like I just opened it. So it's not that many people are in the group.
Yeah.
So with people that I've like socialized with and people that I've known, if they like came to me and asked me like, hey, do you have anyone in the group right now? I'd be like, I have like one person. It's really not that many people in the group. With people that I had no clue who they were, which I felt so much guilt afterwards that I really had to call Adriel and be like, baby, I like lied. And be like, okay, well, you're trying to sell your program. I'm like, but I don't need to lie to sell my program. But every time they'd ask me, I'd be like, yeah, I have a couple of people in each group. And I literally went through my own behavioral chain analyses about the lie. And again, everyone does lie.
They do.
We do. And it's all for different reasons. Some with good intention. Lying's not an okay behavior, period.
Yeah.
So just because everyone does it doesn't mean that it's something that we want to say, you can do it. And everyone does it. But this one was more fear of not getting referrals. Fear of someone saying, we're not sending you people until you get more people.
Yeah. Fear of judgment.
Yeah. Fear of judgment. Fear of just not succeeding.
Yeah. And it's so interesting how we associate, like, if your group was full at day one, that would mean something different than if it wasn't. Because how could it be?
Yeah.
And at any point, like, that makes sense to everybody. Everyone's group starts with one person.
Right?
Yeah.
Starts with 0.
Usually, yeah. No. It starts
then
with
goes
0.
to 1.
Yeah.
And then it keeps growing. So hopefully by the time this episode airs, it's grown. But I do understand. And it's actually, today we were talking about it with one of my clients because he was frustrated about his children who lie to him.
Yeah.
And mainly like his daughter who lies about like the success she's having. And he's like, I don't understand. Why be a liar?
Yeah.
And I was like, it's an ego thing sometimes. Sometimes like we don't want to be perceived as a failure. So we'll lie.
Of course.
And I used the example early on with Adriel. Like Adriel is an actor.
Yep.
Right? But in the beginning, he wasn't getting gigs because that's how that industry works. You do auditions, but you don't get gigs. So when every time someone would be like, so are you getting anything? He would kind of panic and do what I did last night at the event and say, yeah, I'm getting things. And I'd always be like, auditions aren't gigs, baby.
Yeah.
Now he's getting gigs. But we all do this, and it's an ego thing sometimes. You don't want to be perceived as a failure.
Of course. And it's interesting because we all know how the like industry is. And if someone told me that they didn't have any gigs lined up, it wouldn't make me judge them.
We all know also there are people
that will. Yes. And that's the thing. It's like we're all preparing for this mean person who's going to come and judge you. And we don't 100% need to be all the time. It doesn't matter. Does that person's judgment matter?
No, it really doesn't.
One of the things I always talk to clients about is like when someone feels like they need to really lie to impress somebody, I'm like, would you go to that person for advice?
No.
And yeah, usually the answer is no. Because if I feel like I can't be myself, they're probably not the person I'd go to.
Yeah. Also, I think that's like one of the things that I always tell clients too. If you're being judged, it's better to be honest.
Yeah.
And let them judge you because you're gonna prove them wrong.
Yeah.
But if you lie, it always bites you.
Always. Yeah.
It's not, and one of the ways I try to explain it, like from a your mind is the smartest and dumbest organ perspective. Like if I'm lying and I'm like, oh, I already, and that's one of the things I was telling Adria last night. I was like, if I'm lying and I'm telling people I already have a couple of people, my mind's not going to want to work harder to get more people. And he's like, that's a little, I get what you're saying, but that's not really how it works. But again, in my mind, I won't enjoy it when I have that couple of people, when I worked hard and got that couple of people, because I'm just constantly telling people I already have it.
Exactly. It takes away something from the actual achievement. And that's really disappointing for later down the line. I think it's such a good thing of like that kind of like what you're missing out on by not acknowledging reality as it is when it's happening.
Yeah. And the here and now is exactly how it is.
Yes.
But I think we all have that habit of lying. Why? Why is humanity flawed?
Well, that's a bigger question. Well, I think we lie. We lie to avoid discomfort. We lie to, and I think that probably comes to the core of it, avoid discomfort in any shape. Is it to impress somebody, to avoid the like fear of missing out, or is it to prevent myself from feeling shame? And there are a lot of different functions to it, but I think it is all about avoiding discomfort or thinking that you're helping to avoid someone else feel discomfort.
It's about avoiding consequences too. Like there are times where I have clients that come in and talk about, like, of course we do therapy, so there are many topics and no judgment on any of them, but like having an affair and lying about that. And every single time it's like, okay, well, you know you're doing something wrong.
Yeah.
So you're lying about it because you want to avoid being seen as someone that is doing an unhealthy thing, something that's hurtful. And like it can be a form of avoidance. Like again, when we avoid telling the person, like me avoiding my dad and saying like, I'm not avoiding you, I can't come, I'm gonna lie and say I'm busy.
Yeah.
Because I don't want you, because I'm sitting here watching TV and technically I can come and see you, although I would like to take a break and that's okay too. But I'm avoiding your reaction, you judging me, so I'm gonna avoid. And even being dishonest, sometimes the question is, you have to take a look at yourself and say, what am I avoiding by lying?
Yeah. And that's such a powerful question because usually the answer is, it usually makes sense. Oftentimes we may want to.
Yeah.
We want to avoid that reality. When we were going to see a movie and I feel like it was like that Judy Blume movie, like It's Me, Margaret.
Oh.
And we were like sitting down in the chairs and like a mom and daughter came in and she was like, oh, those are our seats. And I was like, oh no, they're ours. And at the time, to be fair, I did not realize I was lying. I didn't know. So sometimes you don't know.
Sometimes you don't know.
And eventually things escalated. Like one of the customer service people came in and they were like, can we see your tickets? And I had bought them for the day before.
Oh.
In that moment, I had such a strong urge to lie and be like, no, they're for today. Because when I saw that fact, I was like, I cannot believe I stole a seat from like a mom and like a 10-year-old. I'm like stealing seats in this PG film. And of course, I want to avoid that reality.
Yeah.
It was pretty obvious because everyone was staring at the same phone picture.
Yes, it was. You had to face it.
Yeah.
I think that's the thing. It's liberating sometimes when you end up actually facing it. That's the piece where I actually like it's weird. It's become my favorite thing because again, we're all flawed. So I have given into my ego or given into like, I don't want to face this consequence, or I just don't want to be seen this way, or I don't know, whatever the reason is that I'm using lying as my coping mechanism to not face something. I come back and I face my shame and I actually tell the truth, and it's become my favorite thing. Because that idea of, oh my God, they're gonna hate me, oh my God, I'm gonna be judged as a horrible human being. I will say, up until now, not once have I experienced that. People have actually been like, thank you for telling me. And some people don't try to fix my shame. Some people try to fix my shame, and that's when I'm like, no, I want to learn.
Yeah.
I want to do better. It's one of the best things to just give in to your shame and tell the truth.
It changes the way that you converse with people, and it's more genuine.
Yeah.
You can have a real interaction with somebody, and I think also learning that you can tolerate shame is so important. You can tolerate the repercussions, and sometimes I wish we didn't have to.
Yeah.
But other times, I think we need to.
We're flawed.
Yeah, we are, and of course, like I'm sure I've lied at some point this week.
Yeah, I told you I did yesterday. I try, honestly, it's become like, it's one of the things that I put on my diary card. I don't have a diary card anymore, but back in the day when I used to have a diary card, I would put it on there, and I really worked hard to be mindful not to give into it, and I tried really hard. And I think when I get insecure is when that coping mechanism starts coming back up again.
Yes, knowing what the risk factors for you are. It's like a warning sign. Okay, I'm starting to feel not that great. I'm way more likely to do this other thing.
Yeah, hence, like, I'm being insecure about the success of my company and my program. I have multiple people in my groups. One. I wish it was two, then it wouldn't be a lie.
I know.
Rude.
Yeah, it would be really nice.
It would be really nice. But I think that's the thing. Sometimes going kind of ties into the idea that we really do have to radically accept we're flawed. Like, we are not perfect human beings. There is no such thing as a perfect angel of a human being.
Yes.
It can't exist.
No.
You're going to lie.
Absolutely.
Don't steal. Don't cheat. Although when I play cards, I cheat
Sometimes that's part of the fun.
sometimes.
Sometimes it's built in.
I just want to win.
Yeah.
I'm
Sometimes you want to win.
Yeah, man. Although Adriel really doesn't see my cheating when we play cards. Because we actually sometimes, like, we turn off the TV and we put some music on and we just play rummy as, like, our bonding time. And I'll cheat.
Yeah.
And I win. And he's like, why are you so good? And I'm like, it's because I'm intelligent.
Yeah.
So I also lie.
Listen up, Adriel. It's all a lie.
No, I am smart.
You are smart. That's not the lie. The lie is why you're winning.
We're flawed human beings.
We are. And sometimes it's almost like an instinct. And I think what's so interesting about what you were talking about when you were like, Dad's asking you to come over. It's something that I noticed myself doing too, is that it's a lot easier to say no to something if I already have something. It's a lot harder if I'm just being honest with myself and just, I'm not in the mood. I need a lot of recharge time, like a lot of it. And sometimes I just have had too many social things. And so when I'm in a situation and someone's like saying, oh, do you want to go do this thing? Maybe I don't, because I've just done too many things that week. And I think it's so important to just be able to say where you're at. Because then someone's like, oh, how was that thing that you went to? You said you couldn't come ice skating because you were playing Parcheesi with your neighbor. And I'm like, whoa, the fuck?
When was I doing that?
I'm like, why would I make something up like that? That's really specific.
Because they tell you when you lie, you have to be specific.
Yeah, I'm like, that's the only thing I picked up in psych class. Better liars are specific.
So here's the thing. How do you find the middle path? Because it's a dialectic. Lying is human nature.
Yes.
We're flawed. We exist and coexist as being flawed. And we sometimes give into impulses to engage in behaviors like lying, which is also, on the other end, not healthy. Being honest is a very healthy behavior. It adds more to your self-esteem.
Yes.
It adds more to your self-confidence. And the guilt and shame doesn't exist, so it doesn't affect you, right? How do you find the middle path of knowing that sometimes we engage in a behavior that we just don't want to, it's against our values, and it's not healthy for you, and we do.
I would say, I think it goes back to what you're talking about in terms of being intentional and really asking yourself, why am I doing this?
Yeah.
And what's it for? If it's something, I usually ask, like, is this going to matter in the bigger picture? And what is the function of this? And so if it's something small where it's like, hey, do you think everyone noticed the stain on my shirt? If I say, no, I think you're fine, I don't feel that bad about it, because honestly, sometimes you just need someone to tell you that, yeah, it was noticeable, but what's that gonna do right now?
Yeah.
And so thinking about the function of it, I try not to, and if there's I usually ask myself, is this something that can be changed? If it's after the event and someone's asking me, do you think that everyone noticed the stain on my shirt when I was standing up and talking in front of 1,000 people? I'm probably gonna say no. I would probably still say no. But if it's before the event, I might say, let's get you a change of shirt and see if we can intervene. I don't have to lie then.
Yeah.
You probably don't have to lie ever, but
I think for me, what I tell my adolescents and even adults, because we have these conversations, I always say, listen, one is you have to understand that you're just flawed. So radically accepting that we're flawed. The second is being able to come to that moment and ask yourself, okay, like, I'm gonna trust my internal value system, because I'm like, I've worked really hard to be as healthy and as good of a person that I can, right? So if I end up lying, and then there's a part of me that's like, you know what, my guilt's like, not the right thing, but I don't really feel guilty about it. I can sleep tonight. It's not the end of the world. I'm not thinking about how horrible of a job I did. You're good. It was good intention, and you know what, you don't need to actually say it, and if someone actually notices that you lie, you kind of take the consequence and be like, my bad, shouldn't have done it. But if you are sitting there and you're like, horrible person, shouldn't have done this, I can't sleep, I like, and just kind of feeling that icky feeling, and you're like trying to run away from yourself because you're feeling that icky feeling, opposite to emotion, action, and go tell the truth.
Yes, I like that, of like thinking about how you're gonna feel about yourself after.
Yeah, that's kind of where we regulate and be human at the same time. So I'm gonna lie and say, I just don't want to talk to you anymore. No, I'm kidding. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm kidding. I love you. I'm not gonna do that. No, but we are up on time. Thank you guys for listening to another episode of Off the Clock Conversations with Lili and Lauren. Happy Thursday.
Bye, guys.
Bye.